Hey, what's up, cats and kittens? And shout out to all my cerebral lights. It is she, the Cerebral Diva, and she is back and officially in the building with a brand new video. We're back with another episode of reality, and that's TEA because I give it to you scalding hot. So grab your cups, grab your saucers, gather around, and let's all partake in this libation of Real Housewives of Atlanta tea. Season 12, Episode 12, Boring. Boring. I guess it wasn't completely boring. There were a couple of things that stood out for me. But let me tell you why this episode is significant for me, right? I have been a Kenya Moore supporter, tried and true. I don't know, I've just been rooting for her. We were all rooting for her. But this is the episode that marks my departure. I can't ride with her anymore. As much as I like her, as much as I want to see her win, because I'm one who roots for the underdog. But after this episode, and it's probably something that you guys most people probably didn't even catch on to, but there was one thing that she did in this episode that just made me be like, done. I wash my hands, can't do it no more. Whatever happens. Whatever you get, you got. You created this energy, you created this karma, so it is what it is for me at this point with Kenya Moore. So let's talk about it. So this week is a continuation from Canada, and Kenya putting Tanya on blast, basically sort of intimating that Tanya's husband or fiance was cheating on her, that some woman, the cookie lady, is alleging that Paul was coming on to her, and Kenya sort of made a fool of the woman in everyone's face without actually saying her name, which is the worst thing you can do in my opinion. So that was one of the things that left a bad taste in my mouth. Like, it's one thing to come for someone who's coming for you. When you just start picking fights at a person who has Tanya for me just has really good positive energy, right? Doesn't seem like she really has a malicious bone in her body. Doesn't seem like she goes to look for a fight. She just isn't that type of girl to me, and she really seems out of sorts with these girls because she is amongst some scrappers right now, right? And so when I saw Kenya come for her at that dinner in Toronto, unprovoked, after Tanya was gracious enough to invite her, I was like, oh, okay, Kenya's a different type of woman. So that was the one thing that stood out. So anyway, during this episode, or last week's episode, we saw Tanya say, well, since Kenya's dropping some dirt on me, let me show you guys the little bit of dirt I have on her. So apparently before Kenya left for Canada, she left a bag in Canada, and she asked Tanya would she bring it back to Atlanta when she came back. Tanya was gracious enough, even after Kenya did what she did at the table. Tanya was still gracious enough to say, yes, I'll get it for you. But Tanya, being the intelligent woman that she was, said, look, I'm not taking anything across the border unless I open it up to examine it to make sure I know what I'm taking. So she opens up the package, and apparently it's a phone charger and Kenya's wig. So Kenya was not happy about the whole situation last week when Marlo called her out for wearing a wig, and everyone at the table could see how uncomfortable it made her. So Tanya took advantage of that. So the girls were having a spa day in season 12, episode 12. They're having a spa date. Portia's there, Candy's there, Marlo's there, and Tanya's there. And Tanya's like, you know what, I have a secret about Kenya too. And so she pulls out the wig, and of course Marlo goes through the roof, because Marlo and I can't really blame Marlo considering what Kenya did to Marlo's event, why Marlo took such joy in seeing Kenya's wig. But in my opinion, I was just like, okay. Like, if you're going to pull something out of the bag, please pull something out of the bag other than extensions. Like, I just didn't see the big deal. Now, one of the things I did not like about this, I didn't like the editing job that Bravo did. They showed this whole montage of Kenya saying, now, this is the interesting thing to me. Tanya pulling the hair out of the bag, to me, is further proof or evidence that Kenya's hair is real, because if she didn't have, first of all, if you are wig reliant, if you are reliant upon the wig, the last thing you might forget your baby, you might forget your cell phone, you might forget your wallet, you might forget your car keys, but when you are wig reliant, you are not walking out the house without your wig, right? So the fact that Kenya left the wig, to me, shows how insignificant that that wig was to her. In my opinion, African American women, especially African American women in television, their hair cannot take the strain of all the heat, the blow drying, the flat ironing, the curling, all of the things that you have to go to be camera ready. And so maybe on occasion Kenya does use pieces or use a wig, but the reality is that she has a head full of hair. And Bravo showed this montage as if to imply that Kenya was lying about having long hair, and that for some reason this wig was undermining all of the claims that she previously made about having long hair. It's an accessory. It's like wearing a belt. It's like wearing a necklace. Sometimes you might want wavy hair, but you just shampooed your hair and you don't feel like washing it or blow dry. You don't feel like blow drying it, and going through the whole process, but you want wavy hair. So you might throw on a piece because that's something that you want to do just as a temporary fix. But underneath that, you know what you really have. And to me, this whole montage created by Bravo almost was saying, black women can't grow hair. And even though I'm not a Kenya Moore fan at this point, I really didn't like the optics of that moment. So at the end of the day, I think by Tanya pulling the hair out of the bag only proved that Kenya really does have really long, healthy hair. And why is this even a discussion? It's just so ridiculous to me. Now, so that was one thing. So another thing that stood out to me in that moment is that at one point Marlo jumps up and she's ballyhooing and jumping all over the place and, woo, look at this. Oh my God, I can't believe this. And she tries to put Kenya's wig on Tanya's head. And Tanya's like, move, I don't want that. I don't want nobody's hair on my head, while she has a hair full of somebody's hair on her head. Like, you have extensions in your hair. If you don't want someone's hair on your head, then let's do away with the extensions completely. Because by virtue of putting extensions in your hair, you have someone else's hair on your head. So I just thought that was a really bizarre thing, that she was like, I don't want someone else's hair on my head. Girl, stop. So that was that. What else happened that I want to bring up? So Kenya, Kandi, and Cynthia, they all have lunch, right? And Kandi has become the official bone collector. Like, Sheree is gone. Kandi really doesn't have much of a storyline this season. So it looks like she's taken on the job of just spreading the bones amongst the group. Because she is definitely going back and forth, playing the middle. Kandi is, if you watch this season, Kandi is definitely keeping the drama going between the girls. So the three of them, Kandi, Cynthia, and Kenya, are all out having lunch, and Kandi essentially tells Kenya that, hey, by the way, Tanya dropped the bomb on us and showed us your wig. And Kenya's face instantly changed. You could tell that she was really perturbed by the fact that Tanya had disclosed that she had a wig on. And I just, for the life of me, I just wish Kenya would just own it. Say, yes, I wear wigs on occasion, but I don't know why she doesn't just take that as an opportunity to just explain her position on hair or hair accessories. But for whatever reason, maybe she does, because they only have such a limited time in terms of how they're able to edit the show. So maybe there's footage on the cutting room floor of Kenya explaining why she had the wig, and we're just not privy to that. So anyway, this is where I just decided that I could no longer support Kenya. So Kenya, Cynthia, and Kandi are at lunch. Kenya and Kandi both ordered crab cakes. Kandi ordered the crab cakes, I believe, as an appetizer. And I believe that Kenya ordered the crab cakes as an entree. So the waiter goes back to prepare their orders, or to put their orders in, and Kandi's, because they were appetizers, come out first. So the waiter comes out, he presents Kandi with her crab cakes. And Kenya's like, how did she get hers before mine? I placed my order before her. And the waiter's like, well, my apologies. And I'm paraphrasing here, by the way. This isn't exactly what Kenya said, but this is in the spirit of what she said. Essentially, I ordered mine before her, so how did she get hers before mine? And the waiter's like, when she ordered them as an appetizer, I was going to bring yours out when the rest of the meal was ready because I thought that they were an entree. And she's like, no, yeah, bring them out. And the waiter was just like, okay, and went back to get her order of crab cakes. And in that moment, I completely lost all respect for Kenya. In that moment, I said to myself, this is why Mark treats her the way she does. Because this gave me a glimpse into the true Kenya Moore, right? Because the one thing I don't like, I don't like people who treat people in service positions poorly. Whether it's a valet, whether it's a bus driver, whether it's a waiter, whether it's a hotel maid, the way you treat people who are in service-oriented positions says a lot about who you are as a person. Because typically people in those positions really don't have the support to be able to counteract or to interact with you in a way to let you know how they really feel. And you know that you're at an advantage because, quote unquote, the customer is always right, when in reality the customer is not always right. A very simple hey, were you going to bring my crab cakes out as well? And the waiter may have said no. I was going to bring them out as an entree, and you could have simply said, hey, well, if it's possible, I would definitely like mine as an appetizer too. I'm sorry if I didn't convey that to you, but if you could bring those out for me as soon as possible, I would appreciate that. Right? Same exact thing. Same exact thing, but it's done with civility, it's done with class, and I've always deemed King, one of the reasons that I've always liked King is because I consider her to be a quote-unquote class act. But in that moment, I was just like, this is just a mean, nasty witch. And what I'm realizing is the reason her and Nene don't get along because they are cut from the same cloth. They are one and the same. Haven't necessarily seen Nene treat her wait staff or waiter poorly, but I guess it's just two women who are megalomaniacs, two women who are driven by power, two women who are driven by public perception. And so the way that they treat people in general is just, I don't know. I just did not, that moment, out of everything that King has done, the way she treated that waiter in that episode was the deal breaker for me. Like, at that point, I was just, what, everything that you're getting is just simply karma, because this is how you treat people. You have the ability, right, to recognize when Mark is treating you poorly. You have the ability to recognize when Mark is being condescending inside to you. But for some reason, you don't have the ability to recognize when you're doing that to other people. And that, for me, speaks volumes. Sorry, I said it. So at this point, Portia and Tanya are now my two favorite housewives. Yep, I said it. Portia has been growing on me. I have not really been a Portia fan for quite some time. I just did not find her. She's grown a lot. Like, Portia, for me, it's not smart, but Portia is definitely intelligent. Her emotional intelligence has grown so much in the last, 5-6 years, however long she's been on this franchise. But I've just watched her grow and develop as a woman, and I like the woman that she's become. So for me at this point, if I had to choose a favorite, it's Alba Kenya in with Portia and Tanya. I just like Tanya because I think Tanya's just a good person. It'll be interesting to see how it evolves, because we're now seeing sort of the beginnings of her cattiness come to the surface. Because if you're going to be amongst these women, you have to sharpen your claws. There's no possible way you will be able to survive in this group without learning how to scratch back. That is just a fact. So I like seeing that, even though it was just her pulling out Kenya's extensions was her clapback. It was a very weak clapback. It was lackluster in my opinion. But it was for first attempt. We'll give her an A for effort. But you're going to have to come harder than that in the future, Tanya. But we're definitely seeing the beginnings of Tanya learning how to fight back and learning how to coexist in this group without being a doormat or a rug. I'm trying to think of anything else that happened in this episode. There was Portia and Dennis. Dennis apologizes to Portia's mom and her sister. And then Portia and Dennis's mom, they all reconcile. Kenya's pissed off. Oh, Eva's daughter got her name changed. People are upset about that. I don't know how to feel about that whole name change thing. It's not my business. I'm gonna stay out of that. Let me say what else. Okay, this is how I really feel. I don't necessarily agree with the name change. For whatever his issues are, Kevin McCall is still this girl's father. And maybe Kevin McCall is having some mental and emotional challenges right now that may not allow him to be the best father. But at the very least, maybe a hyphenated name, so you do McCall hyphen whatever Eva's husband's last name is. I can't recall. But I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing to do. But again, I'm not the parent here. Eva's the parent. This is what she thought was the right thing to do. So I'm going to mind my business when it comes to other people's kids. Yeah, so that was pretty much it. I'm trying to think of anything else that stood out for me in this last episode. But that was about it. Comment below. I'm really curious to know what you guys thought about the interaction between Kenya and the waiter. And what you think about this whole extension thing. If you think it's a big deal, like I've seen Kenya on Wendy Williams. I've seen Kenya on several shows where she's actually been rooted, where they've gone into her roots to prove that this is her real hair. And I have no doubt that on occasion she might add pieces for fullness, for volume, for texture. But at the end of the day, the woman has hair. So let's stop this whole thing about Kenya, not having hair. She does. So that's it for this episode, you guys. As always, in closing, remember to live better, love harder, think smarter. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share if you so care. It is me, the Cerebral Diva, signing off, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.